Did Jesus rise from the dead, or did the disciples lie? Well, Luke 24 says, "As they were talking about these things, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, 'Peace to you.' But they were startled and frightened and thought they saw a spirit. And he said to them, 'Why are you troubled, and why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have.' And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet." From this experience and others, the disciples claimed that they saw a risen Christ. But were they lying? Well, some people have suggested that Jesus didn't rise from the dead. Instead, the disciples lied. But we need to ask, is this the best explanation for the claim that Jesus rose from the dead? Did the disciples lie? Well, this is what the chief priest told the guards to say when the tomb was found empty. They were told to lie. But again, is this the best explanation? Dr. Gary Habermas and Dr. Michael Licona are the two leading experts on the resurrection. They suggest that first, the disciples sincerely believed they saw a risen Christ. An empty tomb caused either by the stealing of the body or by theft by someone else would have hardly caused them to believe they saw a risen Christ. Remember, from what history confirms is that the disciples died for the conviction that Jesus rose from the dead. And remember, liars make poor martyrs. Second, James, the half-brother of Jesus, he went from a skeptic to a believer. James recognized that his brother was unique, but he didn't believe that he was the Messiah until he saw him after his crucifixion and resurrection. James, he would die for this conviction. Third, Paul had no reason to lie about a risen Christ. He didn't like Jesus. He didn't like Jesus' followers. He had no reason to make up a story. In fact, Paul had everything to lose. And yet, we know from history that Paul professed to have seen a risen Christ. Not only would he die for this conviction, but he would also be beaten, stoned, flogged, and constantly persecuted for this belief. As you can see, an alternate explanation is not a refutation. The most reasonable explanation the disciples and the two skeptics, if not cynics, would die for their conviction is that they actually saw a risen Jesus.